think it goes without saying that Pastor Ron clearly fell and hit his head a couple weeks ago when he asked me to speak this morning. I'm going to apologize first by also saying that over the last couple days, amongst traveling and amongst being here, there, and everywhere, my sinuses have been really dried out, and so this might be really quick, but I do have a bottle of water, so I may take a couple sips of water here as we spend our time together. So I'm going to start by saying good morning. Good morning and welcome. But I'm actually going to start instead by saying good evening. And I'm going to say good evening to you all from gate 26A at Newark Liberty International Airport outside of New York City on this past Thursday night. February 27th, as I sit here well into a 2.5-hour delay, waiting on my flight to come home. I figured you, Tom, you'd appreciate these first couple minutes. I'm sitting here on what started as a 1.5-hour delay due to wind, but I'm thankful in saying that the flight is getting ready to board. I'm saying good evening from here because this is where I've also begun writing my shtick for today. I'm sitting here on what started as a routine flight, and I'm trying to detox, relax, and regain my composure after 3 days in my office, which is in Woodcliff Lake, just outside of Newark. It's a few miles down the road, and I'm coming off of region meetings with my counterparts, discussing sales forecasts, 2020 key performance indicators, performance appraisals for our jobs, and roundtable discussions revolving around topics that we have absolutely no control over. I'm sure some of you can relate to your jobs. Needless to say, it's Thursday night, and I'm tired. I want to start by sharing a confession. Some of you know this, and some of you don't. But my confession to you is that I've always been a people watcher. Yes, I admit, I do, in fact, enjoy watching people. My parents will tell you I was sometimes the kid that stared, sometimes awkwardly, at the people next to me in an airport terminal, waiting area, or at a restaurant, a bus stop, but just watching, observing, and being acutely aware of the people around me. I carry this trait with me today in my professional world, and so far I've been lucky that nobody has called the cops on me, or arrested me yet, or called to say, hey, who is this crazy guy? But I do admit, I still do love to people watch. Humor me, if you will, and allow me to update my current status at my gate. I have moved now to the standing charging station with my 2 phones plugged in, my computer plugged in, and I've managed to squeeze myself in between the 5 people sharing this charging station with me. I have my favorite Casting Crowns song, Nobody, blasting in my earbuds to drown out the overhead speakers and cheesy airport music we all know. I'm amazed at how many people are also sharing an extended delay in this terminal with me and are managing to stay still so calm, collected, and polite to one another. I see a lady with her baby politely talking to the older gentleman next to her, and he's acting like the baby might as well be his own grandchild. I know she's not because I heard her asking him several questions about where he was from and what his background was. I see the Hudson newsstand lady singing at the top of her lungs to the clients who have come in for a newspaper, a book, or a bottle of water. They arrive with smiles on their faces in her little newsstand and leave with a skip in their step like they just met a new friend because of her music. I see a lady chasing her little toy dog down the terminal because it got out of its crate, and an airport cop, a Cinnabon employee, and with the help of her husband, are running down the terminal trying to corral the little guy. I see people sitting at the local pub, talking and laughing with each other like they were old friends and sharing a laugh about their misfortunes, about being delayed due to circumstances we can't control with the wind and the overcrowding on the planes. Friends, I see mankind. While I'll be the first to admit, I can sometimes be that cranky passenger who just wants to get on the plane and go, but tonight I'm unusually subdued, collected, and calm. And watching the masses at my gate and surrounding gates, we're engaging with each other in a spirit of normalcy, yes, but also in a sense of calm with each other as they move through this thing that we all call life. They are extending a sense of grace to each other, a sense of tolerance with each other, a sense of we're all in this crap together, so let's make it as good for each other as we possibly can. Humanity at its kindest, if you will. I see white people, I see black people, I see Indian people, I see Hasidic Jews, I see Asians, I see passengers, I see airport staff, and I see flight staff. I see humans. I see humans working together, engaging with each other, respecting each other. I see compassion, and I see grace. I see mankind being kind to each other. Friends, again, I see mankind. I say good evening now. I say hello from 22,000 feet on flight 2246, nonstop from Newark Liberty to Cleveland, going on now what is a 3-hour delay, behind schedule at this point, and yes, I'm still tired. But fortunately, I'm in a bulkhead seat on a puddle jumper with my own window and my own aisle. Life's pretty good at this point. As we ascend into the air, and after a few banks to the left and a few banks to the right, a few thoughts began running through my head that Pastor Ron, may need to come up with a backup plan to Sunday if this flight doesn't end so well. However, shortly after, I'm happy to admit we've leveled off and I'm continuing my people-watching escapade, and I have some exciting news to report. While I've never sat on a plane before in the middle of a sermon prep, I have to admit it adds a certain bit of perspective and a different view than I have ever experienced. My exciting news is that I continue to see mankind operating in the best interests of one another. Sometimes we don't always see that on the plane. I see a lady who gave up her bulkhead seat for that same pregnant lady and her baby on her lap so she could have more room. I see two guys next to me who have never met each other and begin a conversation that could lead to a lifelong friendship. I see a married couple in the front of me on their way to Hawaii for their anniversary after a quick pit stop in Cleveland to visit their grandchildren. I know this because they told the flight attendant as they were boarding the plane ahead of me. I see a flight attendant who is desperately trying to keep a spring in her step, a smile on her face, a happy tone in her voice, when no doubt all other visible signs indicate it has been a long day for her, and I can tell you that she wants nothing more than to have nothing more to do with us. Yet she still continues on. I look at my window. I see a city below at rest. I see lights below of a town, a bird, a city, somewhere in central Pennsylvania that I am not aware of. Yet I see people. I see kindness and I see grace and I see mankind. Similar to the terminal, I see people with people being kind to people. There is no race, there is no religion, there is no politics, just people showing grace and mercy to each other in the simplest of circumstances and the simplest of surroundings. As I type this from C8A, I question why we as the United Methodist Church seemingly can't be this way to one another since General Conference. Yes, we have our friends. Yes, we have our family. Yes, we have our church family here at Family of Faith that I, for one, would never change a single person or circumstance. But beyond us, beyond the Canal District, beyond the conference, I ask again, why can't we, the United Methodist Church as a whole, take lessons from the playbook of this simple day-to-day life and actions of mankind that I have witnessed tonight? Good morning, friends. From 490 McPherson Avenue in safe old Akron, Ohio. It's now Friday morning, February 28th, and in the light of day, I have reflected on my experiences last night and my multitasking sermon prep / air flight, and I am left pondering my reflections from the terminal and the ride home. When Pastor Ron asked me to preach this morning, he asked me to speak to my current mental health, if you will, of the state of the church and where we are as a denomination and where I believe we are heading and where I hope we are heading. He asked me to speak of my background with the church and what my thoughts were with being hurt, his words, by the current state of the church. He asked me to speak on what I thought on current affairs, where we stand, where I think we're going, and where I hope we are heading. So friends, buckle up, because here we go. First, I want to pause for this a moment this morning and read together our scripture lesson that I have chosen. It is 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 9. I know Pastor Ron likes us all to read together, so you can find it on page 186. And raise your hands when everybody's there, if you would. It is 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 9 and 10. And while you guys find that, I'm going to take a swig of water. All right, we all pretty much there? Okay, so starting with chapter 9, at the top there on the top left, let's read it together if we could. But he said to me, "My grace is sufficient for you, for power is made perfect in weakness. So I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may dwell in me. Therefore, I am content with weaknesses, insults, hardships, persecutions, calamities for the sake of Christ. For whenever I am weak, then I am strong." Thank you.
The word of God for the people of God.
And the people said, thanks, Jessica. For those of you who don't know, I was born and raised in this church. I have been a lifetime United Methodist Church member and a lifetime Family of Faith member, which was Church the Master prior to. I have seen several pastors walk through these doors. I have seen several members come and go through these doors. I've seen several holidays, I've seen several weddings, and I've seen several funerals. I see a church full of people who are chosen family to me. I see a church full of chosen family who are people who love Jesus, who serve Jesus, who will love one another and will always, always, always put God first. Family and the good of mankind. I see hope in this place. I see hope and I see grace in these faces. I see people here who represent what a Christian truly is, and I see people who practice holiness and live the life that Jesus commands us to live as a follower of him. I see people who strive to make their lives better and to make the lives better of everyone they know and meet because of having Jesus in their hearts, and that is the message that we all have grown to know and to teach in this place. As you know, Pastor Ron has done, I think, an incredible job of keeping us in the loop where we as a church stand, and with where we as a denomination are heading since the passing of the traditional plan at General Conference in 2019. I give mad props to Pastor Ron for being transparent, for being open, and for maintaining a sense of respect for all those involved and who voted to uphold the traditional plan, as well as maintaining a sense of respect for those of us who are devastated that the simple plan and the one church plan never made it through committee to the entire group to vote for as a whole. Every couple months or so, as we know, and some others that are in the church, every couple months, Pastor Ron sends some of us who are closely following the progression of the church and the changes that are taking place, articles and updates that he finds through his various resources and through the various people that he knows. We know that the church is fractured, and we know that it's a reality that the United Methodist Church is going to split. We know that the group that is now identified as the traditionalists and those that identified more progressive are at an impasse when it comes to the stance of allowing my fellow LGBTQIA+ members the opportunity to not only serve churches in an ordained ministerial capacity, but to marry their significant others, and refuses to allow this to happen in a United Methodist Church. These people not only love each other, but want to profess their love of Jesus and commitment to Christ in front of their friends and family. Friends, at 43 years old, a professed member of the United Methodist Church, as a member of Family of Faith United Methodist Church, and even more importantly, as one who identifies in the community that is under persecution within the church, but more importantly, as a follower of Jesus and as a Christian, in my humble opinion, not allowing anyone and everyone who has followed the proper training, the education, and professes to have a pure heart and love for Jesus, not allowing someone to serve Jesus in the utmost capacity in full-time ministry is simply not teaching what we stand for, and that is not sharing what the meaning of grace to all is. Jesus throughout the gospel speaks of the only way into heaven is through the grace that he offers to all of us. Mark tells us as Jesus walked north towards Caesarea Philippi, Jesus turns to his disciples and says, "Who do men say that I am?" Scholars will argue that this is possibly one of the most resonant questions in the whole of the New Testament about who Jesus wants us to think that he is. Father, Master, Savior, Healer, and thousands of other names, but all of those names, actions, and terms are given to us through Jesus' grace. We as the United Methodist Church must remember that. We must teach that. We must own that as our motto and as Christians, a family of faith. We know change is coming. We know big decisions are coming. And friends, based off of what I'm reading, that change is coming sooner than we all think. The members of the church who want to break off and form a new form of United Methodism have already begun writing their own new book of discipline. As you may or may not know, the Book of Discipline is the governing book of the denomination, and the new group has already begun writing their own version of the language that will remain inclusive, prohibiting the LGBTQIA+ members to pursue a full-time ministry and marriage. As someone who is a voting delegate and your representative in the Canal District to annual conference and East Ohio Conference, we may see as early as this year a vote to potentially determine what direction we as a conference will head, which makes up around 700 churches around Northeast Ohio and Central Ohio. We may see a vote that may put into action how we as the East Ohio Conference will decide which direction we want to go. And as Pastor Ron has filled us in several times, once that vote is made, we at Family of Faith will have a finite period of time that we as members of this congregation will have to determine which path we want to take in moving forward and how we want to identify ourselves in the dawn of the new era of the United Methodist Church. Gang, listen, I'm not here to tell you how to vote. I'm not telling you what your heart needs to tell you. I can only tell you, and I can only ask you and beg you to remember, we must keep Jesus in the center of all decisions that are made, all emotions that are expelled, and all conversations that are had between one another. Especially on those who agree to disagree, if you will. I've spoken several times before, I truly believe that Family of Faith can and must be the church that sets the bar for every other church's in its expression of love, its expression of unity, and its expression of how we can move forward as the church that has the capacity of showing others how it can be done. But before that happens, before we even get to that point, we must be the church who not only raises the bar outside, but raises the bar inside. We must be the church that raises the bar inside and unites together as Christians and followers of Jesus to keep us whole and allows us to share that grace that is offered to us and that we all know from each other. We must unite our differences. We must come to compromise. We must be the church that when it's our time to vote, that we know we can vote with confidence, that we are making the decision that allows our family and our family of faith to move forward as the grace-filled church that can help and continues to bring people to Jesus through our open hearts, our open minds, and our open doors. I believe we at Family of Faith will rise from this split stronger, better, loving one another more fiercely, despite our differences. I believe we at Family of Faith will be the church that will continue to be the church that so many in the gay community already call home. Why do I believe this? I believe we at Family of Faith will be the church that will continue to be the church that we all love and are welcome in. I believe that will never change because I know you. I know this church, and I know the love that you have for everyone. You, friends, are our testimony. You are our testimony to the public, to the church, to the denomination, and to the world. You are the grace of this church. You have not given up on me. You have not given up on your church, and we are stronger for it. You want to know why I believe this? You want to know why I believe what we have that no other church has to offer? Again, I've said it twice, I see mankind in him. So alas, where do I stand? What do I believe? Where do I want to see us go? Where is my heart, and what do I feel is my current mental state? I kind of gave them keywords as to what they can start getting back up. Just, we're not leaving. I want to see us move forward as a church who remains Christ-centered and makes all decisions with Him in everything that we do. But I'm happy to say that my mental state with my church is lifted, and it's good. My mental state is pure. My mental state is confident in knowing that I'm surrounded by a group of people who love Jesus with their whole heart, but who also have a passion and want to continue to see us grow as a church who are filled with grace and love for all who enter these doors. I find myself filled with hope. I find myself confident that we are a church and that we as a church will continue to take care of each other, and I find myself praying that members of other United Methodist churches find that same sense of calm and peace that I have. Amen. Friends, stay humble, stay kind, stay grace-filled, stay Christ-filled. Please